Well, hello, and welcome back. We're going to start working on this Y-Wing that I was talking about, similar to the E-Wing, which I printed on, I think, the Elegoo, Neptune 3. Um, Boy, what a pain to clean these parts. With all these hooks and pipes and compartments, there's still support because it locked itself in stuff, so it grew in and out and around. And this was before I really knew how to deal with the supports and tell it where it can go and not go. All went in here. I just cut it back and left it in there. It's not really going to matter. The resin one will make sure it's hollow so we can run wires through. Yeah, I just had to get them out of the way. Like I said, there's still whatever's inside here can stay inside there because it's hollow inside, so it built supports to hold all that. But we got it to where I can get wings in. I think this is this side. Got it cleaned out so I can actually put them on. One thing I noticed from the video, the STL files, now this is from Game Boy or Game Body or Game Boy. This pipe was all the way out to these here. Well, that can't be because this notch sticks out further and it was hitting. So I actually just ran a piece of tape, made a mark, ground that away, and now these fit. But yeah, that's what you're going to have to do on both sides. They had that pipe way too long. So it's going to hit the wall there, and they had to extend, like I said, all to where these are. They already, that one they made short. That one works because that steps out to that wall. I had to fix that. And so I got some of the clips in. So I'm not even going to knock these things out because I don't even know what they're for. There might be other ways of getting wires through. Still got to clean up all the engines. So you see how this is all wrapped around. This is going to be fun too. But at least it doesn't have insides. Well, this might start an inside somewhere. Probably right there. For this part of the wing to attach on. And I know this one does. Somewhere right there. Because you can kind of see where the... Yeah. But maybe since I can get to both sides of this, I can get it all broken out and cleaned out. And then the other fun part is going to be getting these out without breaking anything fragile. Supports that are in here. Which I believe it should. If I get in there and cut. As long as you know which way it needs to come out. There's a way it's going to want to come out. But we might have to cut and figure that out. I've been put off from doing those. This one shouldn't be bad. And now that I see that I can get to the sides of where that opening is. Let's see how I can push in. We can actually break them off from the inside. But what I did start working on a lot is the cockpit. Got it all painted up because it's going to be one of the first things that's going to have to go in order even to put these together. Gotta kind of do that. Canopy. Hopefully it'll fit together because I know we're having a little bit of squishing issues here. This cockpit has kind of that thing going on. So we're going to have to put some pressure. But usually I find it's best to start the cockpit from the back part, and then you can slide them all up. From there on, it's fitting together really good. It's here. Now I got it to where I can at least squish it, and it's tight. But these clips that they give you, the clip and kind of key in everything, they're nice. So they'll kind of help. They actually like clip and lock. So they'll help hold it together for the most part. The glue sets and we can get good tight tape. So the cockpit is done. No pilot. I went back even look at the files and see if it had a pilot, and no pilot. But let's see if we can get this to go and snap together. This was a little pain in the neck. This block here you actually had to push in. It was like these clips. But I had to sit there, and once I pushed it in, it snugged itself in tight. So then I hammered it with my rubber hammer in as tight as I can get it. But I still had to file a lot off of here to get this to fit tight. I'm not sure what happened there. But I'm hoping, I haven't tried it with these clips, so I'm hoping that it's going to snap together with these clips. For some reason I have a feeling that one of these clips is going to get stuck and not snap in all the way. I have that bad feeling. Oh, epoxy smell. Let's hope this works. It's the fun of getting all these to line up. And snap in. There it goes. Very nice. Yeah, it didn't work bad at all. Those clips are an ingenious little thing instead of just pegs. Because it actually clips itself in and holds it pretty tight. I can run. Now you got a piece here that gets glued in there, so I'll hide all that seam right there. Yeah, we got these here. We'll go in there and that'll hide all that. We only got like just there and there, and it's seaming pretty good up top. Doing a little wiggling just to make sure super glue and epoxy moves around. Yeah, but both sides, most of that gap is going to be hidden by these. So sweet. All right. Still a piece of garbage plastic right there. I'm trying to be careful because I just glued these pipes back on. They were so wrapped up in the supports because that printed like that. So it had supports going up. Got so wrapped in there. And I'll just take some black tulip and just rub it in there. It can look like seam. This is a Star Wars ship. Every plate, boilerplate technology, like they said. So we might as well get these in because we don't really have. That's the simple thing about not lighting it. We don't have to really wait on anything. Do we want to? I'm not going to use the little snap-ins there because it's so gooned up in there. We can use the ones on this side that hold the engines. I'm going to say we're going to epoxy the outside and then we'll hit some super glue dabs on the inside. It fits in there pretty snug, so. have a feeling it's going to squish out. Nope, you have to be this one. Yep. Actually, the epoxy worked as a semi-lubricant until I get it in there. Everything's fitting tighter too. Very nice. Also, you want to be very grateful for keeping these pieces clean. This thing's great. It's a burr cleaner, or especially in brims, that you want to go and clean all these edges, because just little elephant's foot, like say if it printed like this, which this did, it can create little elephant's feet. You want to make sure all that's cleaned up. And this is a great tool to do that. Or if you print something, you got to put a brim. That'll get rid of the brim real easy. Now that goes to the back. Here we go. There it is. It's starting to look like a Y-Wing. And man, is she heavy. That's a lot of plastic there. I imagine the resin one would get a little heavier. Now, technically, I could put this piece on too. And we could spray this whole thing white, and then we can go up and touch up the blue. I think I found the blue that I wanted to use. We're going to use this Colonial blue. I just picked up because it's a gray blue, so like I can always find a use for it, even if it's a starter color. I think that'll work good. It's also got to go with my purple theme. I think that will. That there, and then this will be the purple coming up, just like that's fairly similar. And then it's the other one. When we do the resin one, it'll be in yellow leader. I think we'll do a yellow one, gold leader, whatever they call it. All right. But yeah, I could technically put that together, but I think I might just wait and keep this one unit. We're going to paint these separate and then put them together. I believe that's how it is. Great book. I know it's right by this Darth Vader's tie. There it is. Yeah, see, it goes all up that whole nose piece. Yeah, it just follows the canopy. Comes around. Looks like it jets out a little further than what this one will do. One kind of right at the back of it should be swooping a little more. This one kind of goes way out and then goes down. It's supposed to be a little more white here. Yeah, it really rides the canopy a lot more on this than it does here. You got a lot of white in that area right there. But, oh well. The guns are really small. Mine are like massive. I'll have to check that out too. These are like monsters compared to what you're seeing there. Guess that's just an illusion that can be of the camera, because the camera lens is a circle. You get that kind of thing going on. That looks pretty good. Not exact identical, but that's all right. These Y-Wings were so different from one to one anyway. It's a shame this book got wet. There's great pictures on the Falcon. Like here's what I was talking about, how they stippled, where they used toothbrushes and just flicked yellow, brown, rusty and grays. They just splattered it all over this ship. From afar, it looks like it's just color tinting, but up close you can see the splatters. Even has, fold outs. There's the 5-foot gun turret. Look how big that is compared to that dude's hand. To the smallest Falcon they used. There's a great one on a Star Destroyer. This is a Mark II for an ISB-2 or ISD-2. One way you can tell is this thing lays flat and not up like a big X like New Hopes were. I like them better like this. I'm going to do mine as Grand Thrawns, but it has this down. His was an ISD-1 or Mark 1. See all the different color panels on the bridge, which is neat. That's going to come in handy. And you got a lot of red lights up on the bridge area, more towards this side than here. And we got like one on this side, maybe two. That one might be one. Look at them all here. That's neat. How they just randomly did shit. There's a red light there. Yeah, here's another ISD-2 or Mark II. Look at the detail in this trench. It's ridiculous. And the Blockade Runner, which we're going to do one of these. Great book to have. There's another one. We can't get a good picture of it. Here's Lauren Pearson working on a Star Destroyer. Probably scribing lines in it. It was neat meeting him at Wonderfest. And a bunch of the other guys. I could probably find in the back of the book, it does have. Here you have different environments, pictures, and where those are, what pages. I thought they have stuff. In your vehicles, you got your creatures, vehicles. Oh, here we go. Yeah. This is everybody. I worked on these films. Phil? Yeah, Phil Tippett. Did an afterwards on it. I'm sure if I look through, I'll find the other guys. Be nice to meet John Dykstra. I'm not sure who else was there. Bill, but I've noticed know a lot of these guys from. Oh, Grant Imahara's in it. So this is everybody that worked on all the Star Wars. Con Davis. Here's Adam Savage. Wow. Yeah, so this is everybody that worked on every episodes 1 through 6. But yeah, I thought it had a picture of everybody. Sorry that I went into that. Alright, so with those. And then I think I'm going to use this Colonial Blue at least as a starter for that canopy. But I am going to let this sit. We can actually then eventually start painting this. Oh, I got some piping to go on. And I think a lot of these are going to be white, and then we're just going to add rust. Ones I'm going to kind of make copper, but from looking at the picture, I don't think it's actually copper pipe. I think they just signifying that those corroded the most. That's why, instead of having just little rust spots here and here, they kind of made the whole pipe rusty. So I think doing it in a white and then doing that with pastels or using this Vallejo wash won't get what I want, but you can still see a little bit of that white. But yeah, let's let this cure. And we got plenty, both of these to clean up. And I think that's the last things to clean up is that and the landing gear, but the landing gear is fairly easy. And this droid. But he'll be alright for this model because he's more of a R2 series. Alright. I got these pieces started to get painted, glued the guns on. So the cockpit, I taped off these edges so we have good glue edges. So those are painted, and I think before I even put them together, I'm going to start doing this blue, I think, the canopy area. I think it'll be easier to mask, not together. I don't know, it might work either way. Well, main thing is that I won't get blow in on the cockpit. So I got all that painted up. Everything's glued in. Probably do some solar res to make these look more glassy. This is together. What I'm doing is starting to do the pipes. I just printed them out of filament for this ship. But this is nice and solid. But yeah, I think I'm going to do the, on this part, it only really needs to be. Might not have to do any of that blue at all unless I do this rail. Yeah, so I think we'll hit that all white. Or maybe the blue. That would probably look better. So I'm just going to take that off and hit all that inside blue. But maybe I will. I gotta remember how this. I know it's a pretty tight. Yeah, you're not gonna really see much of it. Maybe I'll just do that edge. And then the back, yeah. We'll see. Either I should paint the inside white or hit it with just the blue that I'm gonna do. I want to get most of that on and then only have to touch up. So then when I put this together, I don't have to worry about masking this all off. It's just so much tougher to try to mask those off unless I do the window areas. I'm not sure if I'm going to put windows in this one or not. Most Star Wars I don't because they never did. But I want to get these couple of these pipes on before I spray this white. There's going to be some that are rusty or kind of coppery. It looks like from the picture they're more just rusty. So I think that's what I'm going to do with this one. Maybe the yellow one I'll get more. Unfortunately, the Lauren Peterson book only gives you one shot of it. But this isn't identical to the filming miniature. There's some differences. I know there's like weird piping setting right behind R2 that was always copper here. So I got that one fixed, which this is its brother. So the other one's supposed to be, I think this one. I'm not sure which one. Pretty much this part's the same part. I think that goes. It's supposed to go here, but where does it end up back here? Does it do this type of thing? It goes like that. And since these are not any type of direction, they're pretty much a copy of the same part. We'll have to clean all that up. But that's what I'm working on. I'm going to get all these piping on, and then we'll come back. All right, I got most of the piping on except for these two back pieces. They're a little rough because of the way they printed. Of course, they printed on with laying down on this side, but that's because all the pipes that bend up, you had to have them on the bed like that. But it's fine for this. That'll work fine for this. Okay, like I said, we're going to do this in a resin and real nice, and then we'll resin print these. They'll be really fragile as well because of the sand crawler. I resin printed all the piping on that. But these, I'm glad printed correctly. That the show part is nice, and then the underneath is a little rough. But there's a lot of little rough spots, you know, being a filament print on this ship, especially with the lack of knowledge when I printed this with supports. Now I would use tree supports. And those fit in there nice. So we just have these two back ones. And really all I do is I go in there with a file and sandpaper, and then you just take a torch and do that, and that smooths them all out. Gets rid of the whiteness from you sanding and scraping. The same thing as if you scratch. So you kind of get a little, it's hard to see. It's usually like a white scratch. You get like a, kind of like an edge like that. I don't know if you guys, yeah, see how it's white there, and then you just come up and hit with a heat gun. It goes away. That's what I've been doing, but the pipes themselves are pretty, but there's these little couplings on the pipe I wish could be better. But I think this will work for this little static display model. And it's just really familiarizing me with the kit before we do the real resin piece, and we're going to have lit. And there you go. And actually get some glue all the way around because these fit in really deep. It's nice. I got a good depth to the holes. Wonder if I should take that one out, put more glue in it. I think so. So it's not just gluing on the tips. There we go. That makes me feel a little more secure about them. I'm sure they're probably one of the pieces that gets hit the most. And I know some of these, like especially on the yellow one, you see rusty or almost copper looking. But looking at the picture on there, it's more of a white pipe that's just corroded. So that's what I'm going to do. That's why I wanted to glue them on now, and I can spray this whole thing white. And then I'll go with pastels and the Vallejo wash. But this is my, is this the rust? No, this is the dark yellow. There it is. This is a great rust wash. But this works really good. But so does the pastels. I like the pastels because you can give a, it'll let paint show through a little better. The underlying paint, so it looks like more like rust stains. But I just wanted to show you that update. So this is ready to, we'll let those pipes up fully cure. And those are setting up already. Just making sure they look flat. Yeah. Good enough. Well, all right. I started doing the blue for the canopy area. I'm using Deco Arts Colonial Blue. And over the white, well, even the black, it's coming out pretty nice. I'm liking it. I did 2 coats on these, only 1 on this, and then I got to flip it over and do the inside. because I am hitting the insides with it as well. Got the gun turret painted. And the back half. And actually the detail comes out so much nicer being painted. And I'm going to say that I think it's a Rust-Oleum or Triple X for this filament printing, especially as shoddy as it was. If you took your time and just built up coats, it hides a lot of the build lines, like at least the massive ugliness. Doesn't look so bad. Now it's bothering me is, like where this piping was a little rough. I just hit it with a good heavy and it filled it in. So they don't look so bad. The only thing that's bothering me right now is it's a gloss coat. But the back looks really good because that printed up right. So it didn't have any weird supports in there. But all in all, I think once you put a droid in there, that'll hide some of that ugliness. I might go in there with a brush. It's going to be hard with an aerosol can to get that more white. So I'll probably just hit that with some white paint with a brush. But like I said, I'm going to continue painting on. Well, here it is. I got most of the blue done. I just got to do the underside of that. But I just wanted to see what it looked like getting together. Looking good. I think I might actually missed a little white on this blue. Just give it that little miss shot. Kind of blend it in so it's not so contrasty. But all in all, I like that colonial blue. So, and I think I'm going to use the same color. Oh, yeah. I'll use the same color, I think, for the stripe on the side. All right, we're getting ready to glue these pieces together. I hit the blue with a little bit of white mist, a little blending coat, if you will. That tones it down a little bit, but I got to do that piece because I finally got the underside all painted. That over there, but we don't need that right now. So hopefully these will go together fairly tight. We got super glue.
Seems like an easy choice to me. Sign up for free and start dragging and dropping your way to professional
We'll do a little resin and we'll do a little super glue on the clips. We don't want to use that. There you go. Now let's try some super glue on the clips.
But we didn't see the deputy.
All right.
That's it. I'm calling Pants World now.
Let's see how getting all these lined up is going to work.
Helen Hale and Stuart Panikin.
There we go. Holy cow.
One more game.
Uh-oh. That's what I was afraid of. There it goes. There. Those clips work really good, but man, probably should have waited to put the guns on there for putting that piece in. But we know it'll squish that tight. Now we got a little bit of gap, but this can be a panel line. And once we get darker panel lines with a wash. I think they'll blend in. Like I said, I'm not going to go crazy on this one. I should order some white tulip. That would probably be the best. Normally, if I would have put this together before I painted it, I would run the black in there. But then to try to have to tape all this off again, it wouldn't be terribly hard. But I don't think the I do have some of this Tamiya surface primer in white. That might work too because it's a real thick lacquer paint. And actually, you can thin it out with some lacquer thinner and spray it, and it'll be just like the Tamiya Fine Primer. But they give it to you like this because you can brush it in areas too. So I might try that. But nothing to it but to get this top on because I want to get this blue stripe going down here. It goes the whole length. I wasn't sure if this stripe here went all the way around, but it doesn't. It stops right here. We can get this blue on here. And then we can go with the stripe on the top and the bottom. But I'm going to go and get this one ready to glue and get a mist on the canopy. You can't really see the difference in the camera, but it definitely blends it in, and when we get it clear, it'll really pull it in. Because now it still kind of looks like a white actually splattered, but once you, and it kind of gives you that almost little chip effect or worn paint look. Okay, time to get these stripes on the sides here. I got it, we did it together. What I did with those seams is I just took some white paint and just kept filling it in there. And the craft acrylic I could wipe away so I didn't get like this really heavy white line here where I got it on top of the rest of the surface. So I just took a brush and just kept packing it in there. Ooh, this one needs a little moisture. And then let it dry, and then just kept filling it in with paint. Let it sit overnight. There was a couple little holes where it kind of dried through, and then hit it again when I got home from work. And it looks good. There's those seams. Yet they're still indented. That's why I like the paint, because it'll level itself out and still look like a nice level panel line. But now it's buried, and then I didn't get the extra. Because I lightly hit this with white, so we'd have like almost like a pre-shade with the black plastic below. But if I would have used like that lacquer Tamiya primer, which it's really thick and you can dab in there, and I would have closed it up quick. But I would have had this white line, real bright white line going where I hit on top of, where that I can just actually mash that in there and just take a wet, damp paper towel and just wipe the excess off, and it just leaves the white in the center. So now that I got the seam situation fixed, I just kind of had to come up with a gray stripe here. Well, we're going to use that colonial blue and do that stripe there. Now that I know that the stripe up here does not go all the way around. Now maybe on the other one I'll actually make a mask or maybe even a decal. So I'm going to put bigger masking tape over that just to make sure we don't hit more blue up on the canopy. And I think I'm going to airbrush this just so I know it won't. There's some areas that are bumping up because there's a lot of greebles, especially with build lines of 3D printing. Paint likes to follow that. That's why I'm almost wondering if I should hand brush it, because the craft acrylic I have to get so watery. All right. I just went and hand brushed that on. It was just simpler that way. I was worried about a lot of blow through with the airbrush. Still worried about the blow through with the paintbrush, but this paint should be easy to clean up any over bleeding because it's a water base and our hull color, this white is a rattle can, so it's probably some type of acrylic enamel or so pretty good. We have a couple that went down because it's going over that bump. But I kind of expected that. But that's easy to clean up. Let's see how we can get this one. For the most part, not too bad. This tape is a little weird. It doesn't always stay down, especially on these rougher surfaces. But it's great because it won't peel up paint either. But all you have to do is, like with a blade, what I do is just go in and you can scratch it away. You know, it'll leave a little bit of residue since we're scratching a 3D printed model. So you're trying to get in between the build lines. It can be a little rough. What you do is you get rid of the majority. And I should be able to go with a damp Q-tip and get rid of that little just residue. But yeah, you just go through and just scrape. And it scrapes away. Like I said, and then you can just take, especially if I have one of those pointy ones. I need to order more of these. Normally I just use cheapo Q-tips because you're only using them really quick. But these do cost a little bit because they're tightly wound, but they have that nice point. And you can just come in with a damp one. Yeah. And you can just get rid of the rest of that paint. But all in all, and then I'll hit that with a little bit of white to bring that into the same zone where it's not so contrasty. I'm liking that. It's pretty close to what's on there. The biggest thing is just trying to find where you can go without all these, greeblies causing a mess. Well, let's look at the other side. Did it wrap around the corner nice? Yeah. A little bit of a blowout, but like I said, we can. That might just be just a toothpick deal. Yep. Oh, not too bad. And that's the tougher one, the top one. The top one had to go over top of a lot of greeblies. And I think we'll figure it out. Yeah, it's just going to be where this tape doesn't like to stay down where we came up to stuff. But a little scrapey scrape. If it's leaving me a big stain like this probably will here in this corner, we can just dab a little white there. But I'm going to clean that up, and I just wanted to show you that. But that's pretty good. And in the back, I even made sure it looped around the back a little bit. But it's going to look so much better when we hit it with just a quick mist of the white. So I went ahead and glued these two halves together. I still got to clean up all the supports on this one, but this is going to be fun. try not to break everything, and I gotta kind of look at pictures and see where things are and what's supposed to stay. But once I find the certain supports, the rest of them should pop out of there. Because these are probably going to go on last. I'll probably keep these separate and paint them. Because we do have those things that make these be able to attach, which is not Canon. As you can see, it's a smooth T-bar going all the way back. But that's just the way this model kit was designed, with a little... It's kind of like there was a toy where you could snap blocks together and you had a connector that had T things, and it's very much like that. It has a brim on it, but so it's one of these. And then that goes like that, and then you slide this one, which probably needs to be cleaned. That's where the brim was. And it'll go over like that. But it looks like there's no stop in the middle, so I can probably push most of it. And you want to get it half and half, so it's holding half and half. I mean, this doesn't have a lot of weight. I probably, on the resin one, am going to drill holes and put a pin, into it. If I can, that would be so much nicer. These cleaned up fairly quick. I just want to take time to go in there and trim. In order to bend your tool to pop stuff, I don't want to break anything. I know we got a central ring, and we got this little chevron kind of thing, and then it has holes in it. So I got to pop out filament that supports in those holes. And then we got supports that went up and caught this. And they all grew from the bottom. And I can't tell what's going on in there, if that's a support, or is this able to get busted away. I'm not sure. But really, then all we got is to get these two in the same spot, and then we got landing gear to work on. These are actually just two pieces. This goes up in the ship. Like this will sit in there. These must be simulated hatches. Still got brims and everything on them. And then these are supposed to be holes. Those will clean out like that. It'd be interesting to reprint this kit on the Bamboo and see how much better it does. And I could probably do better on the Elegoo too, because that thing prints pretty well. I did all right. Especially me, no knowledge, I know more now than I did when I first got that. Usually the best thing to do with these is kind of just take it flat. Right under the fingernail too. Do that. It gets rid of all that. And honestly, the more you get doing support removals, the better you kind of get at it too. Just like anything. I love how even with the Bamboo, a lot of times I'm able to print stuff without supports, which I just don't think I would have been able to do on the Elegoo. Cleans that all up nice. But then eventually is there a way? Or does it not matter? I don't even really think it matters. No, there is a way. Yeah, this has more of a round than this has a squared off back. So there is a way that they want to go in. So that'll go like that, and then I guess eventually go in there, but I gotta clean this brim up. See if that helps. Yep. Yeah, and then that'll go like that. Not bad. I like that. Pretty respectable looking landing gear. So we just really have those. That's it. And then I did, because I was going to have this flying, these are the blanks that you can put in those spots. But I'm going to continue doing this. I think I could actually hit this with paint. I'll go through and make sure I didn't miss any little support things anywhere. Give a quick lighter or torch. There was one. Give a quick little torch thing to melt any weirdness. And we'll hit this with a white. Got the little gray panel done on both. The gold leader that you see in A New Hope, it was only on this side. Which I don't even think the Bondi kit tells you that. I think you might see it. But I was looking off of Lauren Peterson's Sculpting the Galaxy. You can definitely see that it has a gray panel here with some hash marks. But I figured since this is mine, you kind of do whatever I would do on both. I'm thinking about maybe seeing if I can replicate that piping there. Maybe those two little ones there, but they would have to be so short I might skip that. But I'd like to replicate that one there. If I can replicate that piping, I'm definitely going to want to have it for this version of it. Yeah, I want to replicate that here. And then I do have the piping that goes here. It's a double that goes up there. I'll do Warren Penny on mine. But I wish this box was back a little further like it's supposed to be on the ILM model, because then I could do that copper and that little S1 here. But it goes into this box. I mean, I could, but it'd be so short. I don't even think, especially on this one, I don't think it would be worth it to go from that box to there. Wouldn't even have much to do, even an S. It'd have to be kind of like a for the one, and the other one just goes straight. But we do have the ones that go from there to there. But I'm thinking about doing some panels in the light gray here. I'm thinking I'm doing maybe this here in that same there, and then maybe doing this in a darker. And then randomly pick a panel here and there. Nothing big, just to kind of make some difference with our droid. Just to make some difference on them. Just random. I want to try to keep them in the light gray. Even if I do this one darker, I maybe do a medium gray. And then hit them again with the little spritz of white so they're not huge contrast. I think that works good. I did this a lot in the Falcon, especially when you're adding the reds and the different gray blues and all that. You have like, I think at least 2 shades of gray that I can remember. One's like a medium and one's like a real light. And then you have the red all over the Falcon. Underneath there's some yellow panels too. And there's some up on the gun turret on the top. But to give it that chippy, like, like another car in front of you threw up some of gravel onto your car and it chips your paint, like real finely like that. It works great for that. But it also gets rid of that contrasty. And you see that a lot with ILM stuff, because they just layered paints and sometimes didn't care about oversprays. But that gives you the effect that they did, is just by doing a little split. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm not on camera, but we'll get I think I'm gonna do that purple stripe first, because it's gonna be hard to mask this off without the tape wanting to constantly lift. It's going over this knurl, and then you got these humps here every so often. So I can get a good mask here for the purple. And if any blows in there, we'll cover that up with the colonial blue. So I think that's what we'll do. So I'm going to start masking that off. And eventually we'll start masking and doing the purple on the cockpit area. Okay, I got the purple stripe under here and it's taped off. So I just taped these edges here and then just hit it with the purple. Didn't care if it oversprayed on either side, as long as I kept it clean, mainly on these areas here. So I taped all that off and just that. And then I was able to lay a piece of, I think it's Tamiya tape that fits right in there perfectly. And then just sprayed over white to hide the overspray that went over. I didn't have to get too crazy on this because, well, this is getting started to get painted. And this one's done. I can just start hitting that with a light mist of the white to speckle it up. And once I do that, then I can pull that tape and hopefully we have a clean purple stripe. We'll see. All right. We got that painting done. I just wanted to put together to see how it's looking. But I'm liking that. Let's see if I can get one of these off. What's the best way to do this here? They fit so nice and snug. But yeah, all the purple and the colonial blue is on. Hit the colonial blue with a speckle of white, a little mist. Same thing with even the light gray to give it that chipped kind of look to it. Make it not so contrasty. I like how doing it on these, since this is ribbed, the lower parts to kind of have a natural darker shadowing. And the purple came out good. That striping came out good. The tape didn't peel out, maybe in little corners, but the funny thing is this paint, maybe because it's in a metallic, it's very stretchy. So as I was pulling the tape, it actually would slowly peel off the tape, and I could lay it down like it was like the paint was tape. And then I took some of the solvent that came with it and just dabbed it, and it stuck it right back down. So that was neat. The only places it tried to lift is in a corner. I don't know if it was that one. I think it was. But then it laid down nice and flat again. A little bit of chipping on an edge, but that we can leave as normal Star Wars chipping and wear and tear. And then so what I did with these is so much detail around here. So, and then trying to tape with all this detail is like such a pain in the butt. So the quickest way to do it is I just taped off some of this detail. Just did a little bit of tape across these. Didn't have to go very far because I was only hitting some purple here. And this part I didn't really have to worry about because it's going to get the colonial blue. So what I did is just airbrushed here. It had overspray both ways, but at least I kept a crisp line here with a little bit of a Tamiya tape. And then I did a bigger piece of tape over top. Did that all the way around. Then, and the main reason I thought about doing this is to try to take tape and just mask out here. I thought about even just putting tape here like a stripe and then masking the outside up to that edge. But even still, just this contour this way and this way just doesn't let the tape set well. And you weren't, and then I thought, oh, I'll just lay a piece of tape, and try to line it up on these 2 points. But what it was doing is it would stretch across here and you didn't have a nice stripe. It was almost like here it would look good, but then it would stretch across in where this white is. Almost I don't know if I could lay oh, I have this tape. So if you try to do this and that to that point, see how you have that white part So then so your stripe's actually getting wider there, and then coming back tight, and you would see that. But if I lay a piece of tape here, boom, paint the purple, protect these detail parts, and then lay a piece of tape over the purple, mask the purple, and then I hit it with white to clean up all this and any other overspray I got. Because then I pulled the tape off of here that was protecting the purple, and then went back and just hand brushed the colonial blue, because there's, again, a lot of detail and you got to get underneath that detail. So, and go around, I wanted this pipe to stay white all the way up. I wanted this to notch in a little bit. So, and it's so raised that I can, and I got a nice brush that I could just hand do it. If you ever do oops, you can just, it's a water-based paint, so you can just go in and give it a light scrape, and then a little wet pointy Q-tip. Grab one of these Q-tips, dampen one end, and you just go in there and clean it up. But then again, I did the colonial blue before I pulled this tape yet, even though I was antsy because I wanted to see the purple. Then I hit it with the white, then pulled the tape. I was almost thinking about maybe hitting even the purple with a little white spritz, but decided not. So they look good. So these are almost done. I think all we're going to do to these. Is there any detail that I want to like make a color? Like maybe some of these tubes here make silver. Just random stuff off and on. We got to do those triangles. We'll do red, and I'm going to do it on both sides, even though the gold leader it's only on that one. But yeah, I don't think there's much. Maybe those containers there we'll do in a silver, and then try to paint the white back on the little holding clamps. That might be neat. Small enough, and that'll be on the side, right? Yeah, because there's the pot. Yeah, and that would be side detail, so that would look kind of neat. We'll do some hash marks like they're on the yellow one. Yeah, I think that's the only thing I'd want to do. There's two there on the lower, and then those three we'll see from the side. Other than that, I think we just leave it the way it's supposed to be. Finished some of the other little detail, did the black and red there, did the triangles, did some different, some of those silvers on those shapes I was talking about earlier. Did those canisters there, did some of the bolts on those plates, some bolts on those plates, those there. Did a spec there, did some canisters on the wings, keeping it simple. Oh, there goes the droid. Same thing on the bottom. But I kept them in like metallics so they kind of shine and not so overly noticeable. We did some canisters right there on each side. So it's coming along good. I'm liking that. But what I've been doing is masking up the cockpit area for the purple stripe. So we got the top done. Besides, I do want to cover this and cover some of the canopy, and actually in the interior as well. See if I can get a big piece of, most of my blowing is going to be, see if I can get a big piece of tape to go across here and close all this up. Might even put a piece across in here. We just got to do the bottom, but the bottom's easier because we don't have all kinds of obstacles go around. What I might do down here, I lay just one big wide piece of tape, and I'm not piecing a bunch of pieces because I can get Almost all the way up to there. Could do that. Trace that panel line all the way up. So now I should be able to remove that. And we just got to extend these. So I think what we'll do is we'll come from down here. Oh boy. I feel it and hear it hitting tape. It's overlapping area. Go. Such a thin strip of tape there. I could have lined it up better. Even your fingernail works really good. Sometimes better. After using this toothpick so much, I've a little thicker in size. Oh, I should come down this way. Otherwise the tape will want to curl. Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, I want to lift that back up. I usually put this piece on very last. This way I can just go like this. And then we can just lay this back. There we go. And same on this side. go. And again, we're cap. There we go. All right, we're ready to spray that purple once we excuse me, cover the rest of this up. I might as well just use this. I only have to hit there. But anyway, I think we're good. Time to get some paint going. This is the part I've actually been waiting for. Oh, we need to don't forget the bottom. There we go. All is protected. All right, I'm going to go spray. Well, here it is. All painted up. I started peeling some tape from the bottom. I think if we go careful enough, I might be able to get it to come off. I had a fatty edge when I was spraying this, so that's why it leaked a little bit under here, but that's not a big deal. Clean it up just like that. So we got to go careful. I think it's still going to be on the wet side. That came off really nice. So far, so good. There you go. And there's this little piece. Oh, it's going to take the big piece off. Oh, that looks nice. I got a lot of different tapes going here. Get rid of that one. There's where I seal it. Yep. Looks like it wants to go all one shot. There we go. And if there is a spot we need to touch up, we can just go hit it lightly with a brush, like we did on the E-Wing. And it levels itself out pretty good, so you don't notice. So that's another thing I'm liking about that paint. A lot of our crimes will probably get hidden in the panels, which will get darker. Yeah, but look at that bottom. That's good. I don't know if I darken these in with a little black or something. Or if I go this way, would it be better? Especially with this. No, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference with this piece here. Yeah, it might. I want to do a light little cut. Make sure the paint doesn't want to pull with the tape. It gets very elastic. Oh, it wants to go all the way. Yeah, and just a little bit in those spots where it just didn't get down into that seam. Now this is the crucial one. I'm not too sure how it's going to come out, and I almost probably should just wait until it cures a little better. Yeah, there's some spots we'll have to hit there, but that's nothing major. Sometimes I find it's better if you just go in and give us like with these metallic paints, slight little score. It kind of helped. We have a little bit of touch up right along this edge. But all in all, I like it. There it is. That cleaned up easy. Actually, I like how that touches up. It touches up very well. There we go, and there's the underside. Sooner or later, we'll have a big old fucking landing gear sticking out of there. Yeah. Put this seat back in. I don't know if I'm going to glue this in or not. It stays in there pretty good. But let's, there. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. A little cleanup right there, yeah. Sometimes with these filament printed 3D prints, you're actually scratching into the hull. But like I said, once you get washes on that, that'll hide some of the crimes too. But yeah. I always thought those went all the way around, but I guess not. I think that's what's going on there. You can just take a little white and maybe the same there. But I think it's good. Put the gun turret back on. See what it looks like with the rest of her. Now we're just getting to doing the back parts of the engine. There we go. I'm liking it. Yeah, we just got to do these back paths here, but they're all just white. So I might maybe do a panel or something to give it some life. Let me see the one that I started cleaning up. Pick a panel or two to add that, like that very light gray. But I do want to keep them off because I want to get in here and spray some, thruster dirt and stuff like that in here. And it'll be so much easier not to have to spray between these. I can just go back here and give that burn thruster look. Yeah, is there a piece of? I think I was sticking a roll of tape under here. There we go. All right, I'm gonna call it an evening and let all this dry really well. Really happy how these came out. So we'll be back.